Hi everyone, it's Rosalie here and Luna's right behind me. Today I'm going to answer a question I get asked often about astral projection, and it's how do you actually stay awake whilst you're practicing? This is the last question I've received from Yellow Monkey, and it goes something like this. You might relate to this. I love this, but I just can't. I always fall asleep. I will keep trying though. First of all, I want to applaud you, Yellow Monkey, for really your determination and your motivation to keep going. And that's really what it takes to be a successful out-of-body explorer, is to really have that commitment to the practice, because it does take time. But there are a few things you can do to really set yourself up for success. And the first thing is to look at the time that you're practicing. So if you're practicing when you go to bed at night, when you're tired and in your bed, then chances are that you will fall asleep. And I often say that whatever experience you're having is the right one for you at that time. So if you are falling asleep at that time, that's what your body needs. But another way, or a way that a lot of people have success with, is called the wake back to bed method. And what that means is that you go to bed as normal, but then you set your alarm for 4 to 6 hours after you go to bed. You wake up, you get yourself out of bed, go to the toilet if you need to, have a wee, but then take yourself to another area. And that brings me to the second point, which is the location, the place where you're practicing. If you're only practicing in your bed, then chances are you will fall asleep because you tend to associate your bed with sleep. But it is much more conducive to having successful experiences if you have a separate area to practice. For example, your sofa or your spare bed if you have one. And you'll find that you really start to build up a certain energy around it as well, especially if you can have a separate room for this. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't have a successful out-of-body experience from your bed at night when you go to sleep. You know, absolutely, this can happen. But if you're really looking at ways to set yourself up for success, then really look at the time you're practicing, try the wake back to bed method, look at the location you're practicing, try to go to your sofa or a spare bed if you can. And the third thing to do is to look at the technique you're using. So I teach a kind of classic way of doing this, and that is to find the mind awake, body asleep state, to feel the vibrations, make them go faster and faster, and then use an exit technique. Now, this is by no means the only way. There are so many other techniques that you can try. For example, one way is to convert a lucid dream into an out-of-body experience. Now, this is not my area of expertise. I've only managed to do this a couple of times, but that's because I'm not a really natural lucid dreamer, but some people are. So if you are, I'd highly encourage you to try that method. Another way, for example, is as you lay down, just to start to watch for all the colors, the images, kind of the swirls that come around you, these hypnagogic images, and then you project yourself into those images. Again, I've only done this a couple of times, and it's not something I've actively trained. The way I've been the most successful by far is the way I teach it, using this kind of classic way, the mind awake, body asleep state, and then using an exit technique. I really love for you to have that more explorer mindset, you know, really think about yourself experimenting and seeing what works for you. Just because it works well for one person doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work well for someone else. So really take the time to explore and find out what works for you. And I'd highly recommend Robert Peterson's latest book. He gives so many different techniques that you can try. But one little bonus I want to throw in is that practicing yoga nidra, which is also known as NSDR or non-sleep deep rest, can really help to start to build this muscle of staying awake and staying lucid and maintaining that awareness in this mind awake, body asleep state. Because this is actually the exact same state that we reach in a yoga nidra practice, but it can be used as a springboard into astral projection, and that's exactly the way I teach it. So I'd encourage you, even when you're not practicing an astral projection technique, to start to practice yoga nidra. And I have so many tracks on my channel that you can try out, anything from 5 minutes to kind of like 25 minutes, however time you have. And that's actually what I do in the morning. Instead of meditations, I very often do a yoga nidra track. So the more you do yoga nidra, the more you're kind of setting yourself up for success as well. So there you have it. Those are 3 things you can start to examine in your own practice to try to set yourself up for success. The time you're practicing, the location, and the technique. And a little bonus, just do some extra yoga nidra sessions. So I post a video every week, whether that's something about astral projection or yoga nidra or sometimes a meditation. So if you haven't subscribed yet to my channel, then I'd be grateful if you would check it out and hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to be notified every single time I post a new video. Ooh. And bye from Luna as well. Happy travels.